Go ahead.
Good morning. My name is John Payne, and I'm the chairman of the Draft Permitted Plan 2018 Tribunal. Along with me today is Jennifer Howard and Carlos Amaral. We have been appointed by the minister responsible for planning. Also in the room with us today is Hampton Dorian and Larry Williams as technical advisors, and Mandy Shaler as the IT consultant. Due to the pandemic that exists currently, this hearing is being conducted via Cisco WebEx and open to the public on YouTube. Due to the limitations, there will only be 2 persons per side permitted in the room. For a little bit of housekeeping, when not speaking, please keep your mask on, and when speaking, you can take it off. For those who are attending via WebEx, we would like you to keep your mic muted when you're not speaking. Okay. Today we have a series of cases which deal with zoning. And the first one we have is FWD 0241. The objector is Christine Ricketts, and it's regarding 19 Tuckerstown Road, St. George's, and it's a removal of woodland reserve. Ms. Ricketts.
These are all written rep, so none of the objections are presented.
Okay, I understand Ms. Ricketts is not going to be presented. She's going to stand on her already written submission. So, we do have a counter objector, and
Not for this one.
not for this.
Okay, so all the counter objectors are best, and they're standing on their written rep, with the exception of the one, I think Mr. Turkson, who's on the screen.
Okay, I understand that the counter objector, which is best, will be standing on their written submission as well. So, for the Department of Planning, we have
Matthew Troy.
and along with you is
Peter Drew.
Peter Drew, Department of Environment, Natural Resources, Terrestrial Conservation Section.
okay, Mr. Trott. Can you outline your department's position?
Yeah, I have my presentation.
Yep, you can come around.
Oh, is it on the folder?
It's on that.
Okay. Do you attach to Energov or is it in the folder? Bear with me a moment while I log into Energov.
Should Mr. Turkson be here for these other presentations?
So yeah, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna share it and then you can
Mr.
control.
Turkson, he's representing estates he's the counter objector that you invited to speak on behalf of Ministry of Public Works for objection. What's the number again? For objection 249. So it's later on in the agenda.
Okay.
Are you comfortable with him staying in for these presentations?
Yeah.
He's just on. Okay.
What was the number again?
He's not speaking.
Attach in the documents, yeah. Yeah, that might be. Well, let's try first. Presentation. Here we go. All right, sorry for the delay, folks. The mouth is yours.
Okay, so I will just run through where this application is. This objection was to remove the woodland reserve in its entirety. And the location was at 19 Tuckerstown Road, St. George's. Okay, so as you see outlined in red, the house that's on the right is 19 Tuckerstown, and the house to the left is 17. It shows as two lots, but it was amalgamated in 2015, so it's one lot. The woodland reserve that they're proposing to remove is on the eastern boundary here. You can see a little bit. I'll show you a closer up image. So if you can see the mouse, this is where the woodland reserve that they're proposing to remove is. It's serving a function as a buffer, separating the two houses. This is just an aerial image showing in 1940 how it's always had trees. I'll just step up 1973. We can see that there was trees. Yeah. In 1973 aerial, you can see the house that was there. And then here's a 2003 aerial showing the woodland reserve. So there's a history of it. These are just some pictures showing you what it looks like now. Not the greatest of trees, but still it serves a purpose as providing a buffer there, and they could always be replanted. At one point, the area was larger. It was a larger zone area, but in the previous plan, when the 1992 plan was being reviewed, the woodland reserve was actually reduced, and the department feels that it should not be reduced any further, and we should retain it in full. So these are just some other pictures here. When the amalgamation happened, also there was a proposal to put a driveway in. That's what you're seeing now. When the driveway was allowed to be built, there was within the conservation management plan for the site, which stated that on either side, the conservation area should be protected. So there is a woodland reserve management plan for the area. So these are just a summary of the reasons as to why the department does not support the objection. It believes that the woodland reserve should be retained in full. It does contrary to the conservation strategy, which STY2A, which says that we should be protecting and conserving the ecologically sensitive areas and habitats, woodlands. It runs contrary to the woodland reserve objective. We consulted with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources, and the conservation officer was not in support of removing it. And we believe that it serves a functional purpose within this residential area.
That's it. Why were the two properties joined? Do you know?
I'm not exactly sure. It was the same owner. They just decided
So the two separate lots that became one lot,
yeah.
and they have two buildings,
Yes.
which would have been on either side of the buffer.
No.
No.
Both the owners' properties are to the west of the woodland reserve there.
Can I just ask a question?
Yes.
At the end of the objection, the objector's agent talks about, sorry, can you understand me? I think I'm understandable, but, just talks about the land would make better sense as a well-planted out buffer area under Res 2. So it seems like the objector contemplates it being a buffer, which would kind of make sense because neighbors don't usually like to, lose privacy. So why, what's the importance of it not being Res 2 and it remaining as woodland reserve?
But it's still gonna remain as residential too. The woodland reserve is just overlay zoning. It provides some protection. If the woodland reserve zoning is not there, they may cut down the trees. They may not, but it's just, I don't see any strong reason to remove it.
There is, once the zoning is gone, there is no surety that they wouldn't just remove everything and just put up walls, put up steps, access drives, roads, whatever. So it's only the zoning, and they do have a conservation management plan that is for that area that was negotiated when they redeveloped the property
Put in the driveway.
last year. Well, it was a whole redevelopment of that property. And basically, if they come in with a conservation management plan, our department is supportive of a removal of all those invasive species and putting in low stature, good quality, high value, property increase in value landscaping. So the only thing that stops them just from making it a grass lawn is the zoning. And maybe their intent, but intent I've seen many times change depending on owners and ownership or people's will. I hope that answers your
It does, thank you.
Just a question with regards to the concessions that were made for the renovations and stuff and allowing the roadway through. The conservation plan that was in play, did that focus on remediating that area, as you had mentioned, with endemics and removing the invasives, or was just around the driveway area?
I'm going back, it's about 2.5 years ago that they started this process, so it is a bit of a time lag. It did include plantings on both sides of the new access road. It did remove the road that accesses to Tuckerstown Road. So it was a amalgamation of the existing, the wall, if you have that picture of the walls, was the zoning boundary. That wall is basically the zoning boundary. Their conservation management plan included plantings on this side and the other side of the new access road because they didn't want a direct access off of Tuckerstown Road. They wanted this. I'm just
environmental sustainability task force and the extended under objection and the objective CTX design is also standing on their written submission.
Okay, so for this objection, the objectors were proposing to remove part of the agricultural reserve. The location was 1 Crater Glen Paget. So just to orientate yourself, the road up here, middle road which leads onto Ord Road, and then which the property is surrounded with the red line. So this is just an aerial photo, 2012, and I'll just go back just to show you. So you see the yellow is residential 2, and you can see there's a few agricultural lots in the area. So this is just a close-up of it. It's kind of peculiar. We have 2 lots. The larger one has the house to the north, and then to the south there's a skinnier lot. The agricultural reserve overlays both of the lots. However, the lot, even though it's 2 separate lots, it functions as one. So here's just the aerial to show you, if you can see the light brown in this area. This is all of the agricultural reserve. In this slide, this is what the objector submitted, which will show you how they propose to reduce it. So just to orient you, so you see Ord Road down the bottom. You drive into the site through the gray right-of-way here, and this rectangle down the bottom is what they would like to reduce the agricultural reserve to. As you saw, it was much larger. That's what they're proposed. I would like to say that a few years ago, the owners of the house did submit a planning application for a detached dwelling unit in this area right here. That's outside of the agricultural reserve, and planning approved the application. So I'll show you the plans that got approved. So it was a 2-story structure. So they were able to get a dwelling house on that small lot. And these are just some of the elevations, just showing you what they were able to get. These are just some pictures here of the agricultural reserve. Nice ornamental trees, fruit trees in the area, nice amenity space. The department is not in support of the objection. It's got good quality soil. The arable audit gave it a 4 to 5 for its value. The owners were able to get a house on that small lot. The department doesn't see any reason to reduce the agricultural reserve at this location. This is just a summary again. It runs contrary to our conservation strategy, to the agricultural reserve objectives, and there's no justifiable reasons that have been presented that would merit the removal of the agricultural reserve.
Carlos?
No questions.
Jennifer?
I don't have any questions.
This property is as you come down S Hill.
Yes.
So just a whole green off the railway trail, just greenery all around it.
Yeah.
And this is part of the greenery in that area.
Yes, I'm just going back to the, there's a fair amount of agricultural land in this area.
Thought so.
Yeah.
Is it being used as agricultural land or just reserved? In the whole neighborhood? I'm looking at the neighborhood now.
I'm not sure.
Okay.
There are
Let's look at the.
fruiting trees in
The fruiting.
different areas there.
This is an area
Yeah.
from 2012, so you can sort of see some of the overlays.
Mm.
So yeah.
look what trees are in that neighborhood. Okay, thanks. Any other comments?
No, that's-
Nothing else to add? Thank you.
Matthew and Peter are gonna be presenting the next one, and the counter objector is Best, who's standing on Ring Road.
Okay.
So I just asked Matthew to get his USB stick with the presentations, so it'd be a little quicker than pulling them from Enego.
I need a little cold, yeah.
The ice box.
Oh, but it's right.
No, it's not just
No,
this,
it's
this
cool.
room.
Can you control it, Mr. Williams?
No, we cannot. We wish we could. We could practice.
All right.
I'm the
Do you
other.
want me to get a heater? I can go and get my box.
No. It's okay. Put fire back there.
I removed and it may make a difference. I'm not make no promises.
Yeah, I'm just doing the wrong. There we go.
Peter, we're switching on the agenda. So the next one, we're gonna just took me there and we'll come back in.
Which one's next?
The next one is 7419.
Okay, we're ready?
Okay, yes, so this,
One minute, I gotta introduce.
Oh,
can you
sorry.
introduce
No,
it?
you're all good, I'm just, it's not sharing for some reason. My bad. There you go, my apologies.
Okay. This case is FWD 0074-19, and it is 35 Temervale Ward, and the issue is removal of agricultural reserve and added woodland reserve. The objective, CTX, as the agent, is standing on their written submission, and therefore, Mr. Truck.
yes, okay. So this objection site is located within Warwick. This is Harbor Road at the top end of the screen, and you can turn onto Cameron Vale. It's next to Warwick Park Road, you're going too far, so Cameron Vale, and then the one that's outlined in red. As you can see, it's a residential 2 neighborhood, so that's the lower density. The green is the nature reserve, and it has an agricultural reserve just to the south of the dwelling there. Here's an aerial showing you the site. Here is a close-up. So this is a site plan that was submitted by the objectors. What they would like to do is remove the agricultural reserve, and they would like to instead add woodland reserve in the corner here. That's what this green stripe here. And they're showing possible additions to the existing house and a pool area. So this is what this,
Just, if you go back to that plan, the nature reserve section is actually.
yes,
at the bottom. We're oriented differently now.
yes.
Okay.
It's to the south
Yeah.
of this, yeah. So this is, these are some pictures of the house. There are some fruit trees there. Peaches, I think, is an avocado tree there. Nice amenity space for the house. The last few pictures will show you the area which they would like to zone as woodland reserve. So the objector was hoping that the exchange, that the department would support the exchange for one conservation area for the other. We've consulted with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. They don't feel that it is a fair exchange. The department also agrees that we don't feel that it's a fair exchange. The sizes are different, which was noted in the report. They're not equivalent. Also, the department feels, in addition to that, that there is enough space outside of the agricultural reserve for development. I'll just show you, I'll go back to so there is some space along the side. Also, there are policies within the planning statement which could allow for encroachments. None of that has been tested. So the department considers that the agricultural reserve should remain as is. It's good quality agricultural reserve as shown by the audit, which also gave this support by.
So they've never suggested or asked about waiving the policies to allow encroachment?
They haven't tested it with the planning application.
Or did it come up in discussion?
Yeah, what exactly are you saying? To build on top of the agricultural?
Yeah.
But they would have to submit a planning application.
A specific application, not a speculative, like what they've done here. They're proposing something, but they don't necessarily have anything drafted up for that specific area.
Right, but I mean, what they propose is to have those additions, but with the agricultural removed.
Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it's not a like for like in a sense with woodland reserve and agriculture.
Yeah.
Do you mind just going back to the plan of what they want to do for
Yeah.
a second? I just was curious to see, was there any space to retain any of the ag reserve
Yeah,
with what they were
that's-
planning?
that's possible.
And was that given any consideration by the department that, to maybe take the woodland reserve, but also reserve some of the ag reserve as well?
That is a possibility. But we still feel that keeping that area, once you start chipping away at it, it reduces the quality of it. We want to keep it a good size to be able to grow things for the amenity space.
So if you were to concede and give some of it, it would make it you said the proportions would not be aesthetic?
It just would, we just feel that it would ruin that space and it would take away from land that could possibly be used for growing things.
I think what he had said was that generally how it operates, if a concession is going to be made on agricultural, a like for like is
Yes.
going to be the option. And what they're proposing as the woodland reserve area does not necessarily encompass what the building or the footprint of what they would like to build,
Right.
correct?
Yeah, they're two different zonings, but also, yeah, it doesn't even meet the size. That's not even comparable.
Okay. Okay, that's it? Any more questions? Thank you.
All right. The next one, John, you'd hoped to do was 77. Now, I don't know whether Tommy is here yet. I'll have to go
He
and
is.
check. Is he? Okay. So Peter, I think you're going to step out. Tommy's going to come in, and then we're going to invite you back into 92. The chairman would just like to get through all the CPX agent submissions first. So let me.
Can I just ask the chair a question? Very often, Tommy and I, Tommy does the sort of biological side of agriculture. I do the planning side. So there may be questions that you have that Tommy wouldn't know the answer to because I would have, over the last decade, been involved. I'm involved in all the planning process. Only fairly recently, has there been a little shift away from that, but I'm still the one who does the planning process, represents it
That
to
should be
the.
the Department of Planning's decision,
Okay.
whether they wanted you both in.
Are
or
you
only one
comfortable
of
with
you.
Tommy
They can
coming
both,
in
they can both.
for the, these,
Yeah,
this
that's
next
fine.
one? Okay. Let me go and get Tommy.
Carlos has stepped out.
Yes, Carlos system.
Border anymore online.
I don't want to say, I don't mind stuff, yeah.
No, 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 no. They
I'd
should,
rather you have all the information available.
they should be telling planning how to present their case. So since you are represent, you are a witness for planning, an expert witness for planning, then we should be saying who they want to be in.
They told me it was your show.
No, they say who they would like to speak on their behalf.
I see.
I may say no, but that's not normally the case.
Either or.
Come bring that microphone again.
I think that
Your Vanessa?
Yeah, so this one is 77. There's no counters for this one? Oh, no, is there? Yes, no, that was a counter objector. They're standing on written rep. Okay, Matt is gonna present.
You have Vanessa?
Vanessa's definitely online and ready to go.
Vanessa's here, yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Can you bring up?
She knows she's up.
Well, yeah, I mean, she's muted right now, so there
There
she
we
is.
go.
Hello, Vanessa.
Hi, Vanessa.
Sorry, I'm just checking something, 'cause for some reason on the live feed, it's not seeing the boardroom anymore. I believe we can still be heard, but I don't know why the video is not
Yeah.
working. But,
Okay.
alright, let me just get this
I
presentation
get
up.
notes on how you introduce these things.
Ready?
Sorry, take a moment.
Good to go? No?
Hang on. Hang on.
This is now our fourth case for the day, FWD 0077-19. The panel has been changed as Mr. Amaral has declared a conflict, so he has stepped out, and in we have on the panel Vanessa Turner. This case resolved around a lot at 6 Sousa State Road, and the request is for the removal of agricultural reserve and the rezone part of the residential one to open space reserve. The agent is CTX, and representing the department is Matthew Trott, along with
Tommy Sinclair and Peter Drew.
okay. There was a objection from Bess, and they're standing on their written objections. And the agent is also standing on their written objection. So, Mr. Trott.
So, Lot 6, Sousa Estate Road, Devonshire. It's right opposite Summersfield School, Montessori. It's outlined in red. You can see that the pinkish color that represents residential 1 zoning, so it's a high density area. And you can see that this is one lot with a substantial size agricultural reserve to the north of it. So I'm just giving you, this is a zoomed up um, site plan of the area. You can see, also I should note that there is development on the site with 5 dwelling units shown from the land valuation website. So this is a 2012 aerial, and you can see even then it was used for farming purposes. And these are the plans that were submitted with this objection that proposes what they wanted to do. Now, the plan on the right-hand side is just the agricultural reserve. It's not the whole lot. But, so what they wanted to do is remove the agricultural reserve completely. On the tip, replace it with open space reserve and have residential to the south of that area where they can put a development which you can see there. So these are just some pictures of what the area looks like today. You can see there's some banana trees in the corner there. It's a nice open space area along the road. It's got oleander hedges along the edges. Nicely manicured lawn. It's historically been used for agriculture for a long period of time. We've consulted with Department of Environment and Natural Resources. They were not in favor of the objection. The department is not in favor of the objection. We feel that it's contrary to our conservation strategy, our agricultural reserve objectives. There is sufficient development space on the lot, and we don't believe that there's been any reasons, justifiable reasons that would merit the removal of the conservation area.
In 2012, it showed, the
Yeah.
image showed, do we know when that stopped?
The last farmer, well, just going back, the actual field itself was farmed by the father of the applicant.
Okay.
So the applicant knows very well the historical part of the field. Certainly his father put food on the table for his family right from that field. After Manuel Pereira died, it was farmed by another farmer, gentleman, Mr. Seymour, who only stopped farming it probably 3 or 4 years ago. And it's not because he would continue to farm it if he could. It was a very good field, very productive field.
Any other question? I have no question. Vanessa, to Ms. Turner?
Yeah, I do have a quick question. Can you advise how many units or assessment numbers are currently on that existing lot?
Five.
Five.
So in that one white building that we're seeing, or are we counting?
Those two buildings are included, but on land valuation, there's 5 assessment numbers.
So is it a cluster of apartments?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
There's 1, 2, 3. I'm familiar with the property, and there's like 5. They definitely.
Yeah, there was a planning application for this site that they tried to put development right on top of the agricultural reserve, and it was refused by planning.
Satisfied, Ms. Turner?
I am. No, nothing further.
Any other comments?
I think though it's a grass field now, it could be very easily converted back into farming.
Okay. Thank you. I have no questions. Okay. We will move on to the next case.
Yeah, the next one's 92. Best is the counter objector. They're standing on written rep. Matthew's presenting and Peter's down, but it is to do with removal of ag. So Tommy, if you wanted to stay for this.
Yeah,
If Matthew would want to, let me go and get Carlos.
Matthew, how are you? Sorry, I didn't say hello to you when I came in. And sorry, good morning to everyone else here as well.
Good morning.
Here, how's that?
It's it's almost afternoon.
It's almost afternoon. The panel now consists of Carlos Amaral, Judith Howarth, and John Payne, and we are doing FWD 0092-19, and it's the removal of agricultural reserve on 13 East Point Lane, Hamilton. The objector is Manuel Corday. Counter objector was Bess. They are all, both will be standing on their submission, so Mr. Trump.
So this objection is for 13 East Point Lane, Hamilton Parish. So flex is down at the bottom of the screen, come along the corner as if you're heading east, and East Point is this road here. It's near the back, and it's the parcel which is outlined in red. You can see that it's a residential 2 neighborhood, although there's a residential 1 neighborhood just to the north. There's a single-story, 1-dwelling house on the lot with an agricultural field, well, agricultural zoning to the north. This is just the same image, just the aerial below, and you can see that there are several agricultural areas within that. So there's several fields in that area. Here's a close-up of the site. It's a grassed area with hedging along the perimeter. I've got some. So the owner would like to remove the agricultural reserve in its entirety so that they can develop it. It would help to sell it. Big claim.
We don't have an indication of what or how they want to develop it, though, do we?
No, they didn't submit any type of plan.
How large is the property? I don't know. It's really big.
So you want to subdivide and then try and sell that particular piece, or keep it as a one?
So it's 6,174 square feet. Oh, sorry.
Mm-mm.
33. Sorry.
Yeah, and like the ag
Sorry.
reserve is 12,000.
Yeah, sorry, 33,808 square feet, so 0.78 acres.
It's a large space.
They haven't mentioned anything about subdividing the property, but that might be what they're thinking, but they haven't stated that.
And they haven't offered to take part of it and make a woodland reserve, or
No, it hasn't been.
they would just want everything,
Right.
they want all.
Yeah, the argument is that it hasn't been used for agricultural for a long period of time. They tried during the 1992 plan, even the first phase of the review of this plan, during the rezoning request phase, they put in a submission requesting to remove it, but every time it's been turned down, as it's felt that the area is good quality agricultural reserve. So yeah, it's just, right now, it's just maintained as this lawn in the back. So, similar to the other ones, this objection, it runs contrary to our conservation strategy against our agricultural reserve objectives. We feel that there's enough space on this property to develop without having to develop within the agricultural reserve. It was given, for the arable audit, it was given a score of 4 and 5 for its value, and we believe that it should be retained.
Any questions? I have no questions. No more comments?
That's fine.
Thank you. We will now move on to our next case, which is FWD 249-19.
This is the one that we have. Gentleman from,
You and Tommy are gonna go, and you can wait in one of the rooms until we meet you for that. Thanks, Tommy.
Okay.
blanket.
So John, the next one's 249. Julie Marshall's gonna be presenting for the department, and Mr. Turkson
Turkson?
is the counter objector representing the Ministry of Public Works, and he's on WebEx.
Okay.
Okay.
That last one, yeah. I didn't even know that was talked out the way there.
This is because when you come in Shelley-Base, there's no way you know that all
No.
that property
No,
is off of
that's,
that.
yeah, that's the one way in the corner, so that's a hard gate to come out. But,
Yeah.
What is that? Oh, good picture.
When you come around Shelley-Bay, by
you pass,
Vincennes,
the Winchell's is what D&J owns on the left. You remember where they used to have the railway museum?
Yeah.
On the left, it's just before there on the right-hand side.
you have to go up a slightly inclined.
Yeah, it's a
okay,
hard
okay.
gate to come out.
What you call it stays there.
It's before Shelley Bay then, right?
Yeah, it's
Yes,
well
yes,
before.
yeah.
So before you get to Bethel
Bethel
Church.
Church.
Yeah, okay.
There's a house up on the.
They still
there's
got
a
it.
house up on the hill. As you turn the corner, there's a house up on the hill, and Malcolm, not Malcolm. It used to be CDMP. Farber. No, Morris. He was a lawyer at Applebee's. Sean.
Oh, Sean Morris.
Sean Morris.
Gotcha.
Sean stays up there.
Julie, and then, yes, no,
It's
I've
interesting
never-
though, there are like banana patches and stuff around there,
Yeah.
for sure, right by the road and stuff.
But this one, we don't.
No, that's, you're talking about Sharon Veazey's property around the
Okay.
roadside.
The one that
Sharon
they're
owns that one.
renovating, the one that they're
Yeah, I
renovating
know
now.
that it's a protected building, so she had to, yeah.
Is it that way?
It's because of the age, that's why they had the roof timbers was all compromised, so they, had to re-slate it and everything else, but because of the age of the building, it's a listed building, I think. Yeah, so.
I was, staying at a friend's house, like when I was quarantining, just around, like up by Whitney.
Mm.
So I went walking down there a few times. I cannot wait for them to put the bridge in and stuff, because you take
Yeah,
your life
so-
in your hands walking along
I
there.
do.
I like jumped back into the trees a couple of times.
That they're seeing online.
Hi.
Hello. I don't know.
How are you?
it's going.
Hey, all right.
No, I have no idea what's
Yeah,
going on.
it's a hard area.
Yeah, that's a.
What's?
Well, I was watching on YouTube and so.
This is all that they're seeing on YouTube. So any of our viewers who are watching right now, who we are still going, but you can't see the video, and I do not know why.
Oh,
So apologies for not having video.
You can just sit in one of those chairs.
still morning. Few
Just
more.
about.
Okay.
Are we ready?
Yes.
This is case number FWD 0249-19, and it's zoning of Morgan's Point and to the Hill. We're dealing with 18 Pompano Close, Southampton, and there are a number of issues surrounding this one. The objector is Bess. The counter objector,
Sorry,
oh, sorry.
Bermuda, yeah, Bermuda National.
Sorry, Bermuda National Trust, sorry. On behalf of the Department of Planning is,
Julie Marshall.
and also via WebEx on behalf of the Department of Works and Engineering is
Nana Texan.
okay. Can you speak again? You sounded blurred just now. Can you say your name
Nana
again?
Texan.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Marshall, since National Trust is standing on their written submission, you're free to speak.
Okay, thank you. I have a presentation.
Yeah, sorry, I was just fixing our video, which we should be good to go now. Somehow we became disconnected, so we were still on audio, but just alright, whatever. Thought I fixed it. Oh, there's a delay. Okay, should be good. Alright, which number was it again?
249.
Off we go.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody. Let me take this off. Again, I'm Julie Marshall. I am presenting on on behalf of the Department of Planning for this objection 249 from the Bermuda National Trust. It's with regard to the zonings for Morgan's Point, the government portion of Morgan's Point and Tudor Hill. Now, in the 2008 plan, these two areas were actually zoned as special study areas, as you can see on this map. This is the area we're talking about now, and also Tudor Hill. In the 2018 zonings, we assigned specific zonings to both of these areas. So the only remaining special study area is the Caroline Bay area, which is here, and the Peninsula area. Andy, can you? Oh, okay. All right, great, thank you. So with regard to Morgan's Point, the department worked very closely with the government estate section to assign appropriate zonings to Morgan's Point. The top map shows the zonings as they're seen in the draft plan 2018. And as you can see, there's a large area of open space reserve and residential 1 zoning, and then 3 areas of woodland reserve. An objection was submitted by the neighbouring Caroline Bay Limited with regard to the property boundaries, and the department has supported the amendment of some of the Morgan's Point zonings to reflect what we understand to be the correct property boundaries between these two sites, as is reflected in the Morgan's Point Resort Amendment Act 2016. So what is now being recommended has resulted actually in a 1/4 of an acre increase in land zoned open space reserve on the government property, and a 1 acre decrease in land zone residential 1 on the government property. And that's reflected in this map down here. So those amendments have been recommended as part of the objection 211. And the the tribunal, I understand, have actually seen those. So what has actually resulted is about 65% of the property now at Morgan's Point is proposed to be zoned as conservation land. This comprises an extensive area of open space reserve. It comprises about 32 acres, and a strip of coastal reserve along here, and then 3 areas of woodland reserve, which are the same areas as were in the original draft plan 2018 zonings. So the remaining 35% of the area that's unencumbered by woodland reserve areas is zoned residential 1. think the main crux of the National Trust's objection is the extent of residential 1 zoning on the Morgan's Point property. The department feels that the residential 1 zoning allows flexibility in considering different development options for any future uses, not just houses, but for other uses such as elderly care facilities and social development. Also, uses could be tourism, commercial and light industrial uses. The government estates section has submitted a counter objection to this National Trust objection, and I don't know at what point the tribunal chair would like Mr. Turkson to interject, but I can complete my presentation, or he might be wanting. Yes, okay. I just have one more slide for Tudor Hill. So with regard to Tudor Hill, that's the second issue of the objection. The department worked similarly closely with BLDC on assigning specific zonings to the Tudor Hill property. The draft Bermuda Plan 2018 zones 20% of Tudor Hill as conservation land. This includes a strip of coastal reserve, 2 areas of woodland reserve, and an area of agricultural reserve. The coastal reserve buffer, as you can see, aligns with neighbouring properties, coastal reserve here and coastal reserve here. And the woodland reserve areas reflect dense woodland on the site, and the agricultural reserve is designated to accommodate future potential agricultural uses on the property. As with Morgan's Point, the intent of designating a large portion of Tudor Hill as residential 1 is to accommodate a range of potential future uses. This provides the LDC with flexibility to lease the land and buildings at Tudor Hill for future residential, tourism, social, commercial and/or light industrial uses. So in summary, with 65% of the government-owned portion of Morgan's Point zoned for conservation purposes and 20% of Tudor Hill zoned for conservation purposes, the department considers that more than enough space is being provided for amenity and recreational space at these 2 sites. Both sites provide a rare opportunity in Bermuda to potentially allow for the development of fully planned new communities. The allocation of residential 1 zonings took into careful consideration the location of these sites and the contribution which their development could make to the island as a whole. The range of uses permissible within residential 1 zones makes it possible to accommodate a mix of uses. The former special study area designation that these 2 sites had in the 2008 plan promoted the same concept. The draft Bermuda Plan 2018 zonings are just more specific zonings, but they achieve the same objectives of providing flexibility for future development needs and preserving adequate land for the conservation and recreational purposes. So the department does not recommend any change to the zonings on these 2 sites, other than the ones that have already been recommended to align with the correct property boundaries on the Morgan's Point property, and those were encapsulated under objection 211.
Mr. Turkson, do you have anything to add?
No, we do support the proposed rezoning for the reasons that we've given in the objection notice. If the panel would want us to answer any questions, then we're more than happy to do so.
Any questions? No. Okay, thank you. There's no further questions, and we'll take this into consideration. Thank you, Mr. Turkson.
Thank you.
Mr. Turkson could actually lead the meeting. No, Sean is calling me on WebEx. He should
Should be here now.
So just to let you know, John, the next one is 211. We're just waiting for Sean Lavis to call in from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. He's calling in via WebEx. There's no counter objections for this one, and Ms. Marshall's going to be presenting this on behalf of the department as well.
I'm trying to figure out the video feed.
Oh, okay.
Let me go and just.
Just for a moment, that would be good, thank you.
You can go back up there if you have a presentation.
No,
So he just needs to sit.
I said if she had a.
oh, right.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to start up the video, the video's been lost.
Oh, the one with the map? No, I didn't have the one with the map.
Go on or we're
We're still here, we're still on, we're still live.
still up?
Do you wanna see any of this?
I just want to double check something on this. The Tudor Hill.
Oh, okay. Here. flip through all that stuff.
I went so long.
Mhm.
Sorry guys, I'm just having conversations with IDT.
Papers are quiet.
Sean said he's going to get on now.
Okay, cool.
He could only get on through his cell
It is
phone.
up to her.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, so you're just gonna have to call in.
Well, I think he's got WebEx on his phone.
Oh, okay.
I think.
Good stuff, good stuff.
Let me know when you're ready.
You're just waiting for Sean, right? Yeah.
We are. He said he would jump on because we're half an hour ahead, actually, 20 minutes ahead.
Oh, I see.
So he was waiting until 12.
He was waiting to drop that, gotcha. Sorry, but he's coming at 12, which is finished. Gotcha, okay.
We're doing 2-1-1-19.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're just waiting on Sean Levis for the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. He's the hydrogeologist.
Okay. All these fancy titles for job positions. Some years ago, I was doing, when I was in immigration, we were looking at job positions.
Yeah, I
The
remember.
handbook is well out of date. It didn't have something like a project manager, it didn't have IT specialist, it didn't have desktop engineer.
because Sean's coming in now.
I
Sean, is
remember
it?
one of my
Yeah,
friend's
just-
job
just-
title was
Oh,
something
good.
like business intellect architect.
Can I get you
Intellectual,
something?
business intellectual architect. And I was like, that's not really a thing, right? He was like, it's kind of cool.
Yeah.
This is a connection for,
For the WebEx.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The video is not exactly working at the moment. It's still
Oh, there's a lot of wires.
Yes,
in
there
there.
is. Yes, there is.
can we,
That's fine. Probably Sean.
so they can hear us, or we've gone on mute?
Well, no, it should be, I was asking Vicky if they can hear us. Should be able to. But she's not come back to me yet.
She looked like she was heading out.
She was on her way out.
Yeah, I think she was headed out.
Well, then I could go see if.
Video off.
Yeah, it just said your
I know, I
video.
just turned it off. Off and on rather.
You want me to pull anything up on my phone? Like to pull the YouTube thing up on my phone?
Oh, so all you're gonna see, the issue is that it's just showing our logo. If you wanna see if the audio is working, then sure, yeah.
I'm done.
Good.
See if I can find it.
Ms. Marshall, the only two issues with this is 4 and 5.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good. You can hear me. It's Sean Lavis here. Good.
Okay. All right,
Sounds like
let's
the
get
voice of the
started.
Headspace app, and I was like, did I just turn that on?
The meeting room, Cindy hasn't left.
Meeting room, you're being expelled. Goodbye. Alrighty, sharing.
Can we,
Going.
okay,
Yes, just the logo.
and it's delayed. Okay, we're now doing case FWD 0211-19, and it is 4 Morgan's Bay Park Sands. The agent is Cox, Hallidan Wilkinson, and for the Department of Planning, we have Julie Marshall. And there are 7 issues to be for consideration. I've noted that there's only 2 outstanding matters that really have to be resolved. So, Ms. Marshall, can you
Yes. Thank
proceed?
you, Mr. Chair. Afternoon, everybody. Yes, as the chair has indicated, the original objection comprised 7 issues, and 5 of them have been resolved. And this presentation is to do with the 2 outstanding unresolved issues, which are to do with the cave protection area and the water resources protection area on the Caroline Bay Limited portion of Morgan's Point. And this map here indicates the extent of those areas. The cave protection area is this purple lined area, which includes the peninsula and some of the main portion of the site. And the water resources protection area is the blue line that is also hatched in blue dots and contains a smaller area that includes the peninsula. So with regard to the first issue, which is the cave protection area, this layer was updated for the Bermuda Plan, the draft Bermuda Plan 2018, with the help from technical officers in the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. It is defined based on the known locations of caves and known locations of exposed or buried cave-bearing geological formations. The objectives of the cave protection areas are to protect cave entrances, underlying cave systems and cave marine species, to ensure that development is sited and designed appropriately, and to ensure that sewage, waste, runoff and effluent are treated and disposed of or removed from the site without detriment to the cave or cave system. Irrespective of the layer of fill at Morgan's Point, according to geological mapping, the site is underlain by Walsingham rock, and there are several known caves in the area. As such, the Department of Environment and Natural Resources and the Department of Planning do not support the request to remove the cave protection area from this site or to amend it back to the 2008 boundaries. With regard to the second issue, which is the water resources protection area, this map layer was also updated with the help from technical officers from the Department of Environment and Natural Resources. The first map shows how the water resources protection area was in the 2008 plan, and the bottom map shows it in the draft 2018. As you can see, it's a smaller extent. The amended water resources protection area applies to all areas on the island that are less than 4 meters above the mean high water mark, within the 12 meters from the coastline, and or within 17 meters from the Harrington Sound coastline. The objective of the water resources protection area is to protect the island's water resources through the sensitive and appropriate siting, scale, density, and design and development. And within these areas, the method of sewage disposal is strictly regulated to protect water resources. This shows a little bit more detail, the water resources protection area with some of the contours. The water resources protection area has been defined using geographical information systems, which using an elevation model identified areas at or below 4 meters above the mean high water mark. And as you can see, almost the entire peninsula is less than 4 meters above the mean high water mark. Using a higher resolution elevation model, we do recognize that some of the small areas are seen to be above 4 meters, and the department is definitely willing to update this map to show a higher level of accuracy. These are some of the contours that show clusters of small areas that are higher than 4 meters. The water resources protection area is a guide, and if detailed site surveys do show discrepancies with the map and a site does not actually meet the water resources criteria, which as you remember is less than 4 meters above the mean high water mark, within 12 meters from the coastline, and or within 7 meters from the Harrington Sound coastline, then policy ZON12 can be applied. This provides some flexibility to allow for these discrepancies if on-site conditions prove different to the map zonings. So as I said, the department is willing to update this using high resolution elevation models for the final Bermuda plan. But by and large, we feel that it represents the criteria of the water resources protection area.
I've read the objector's position regarding the high water against the water protection area, but I don't see any they haven't given, as far as I can see, any real reason to have it removed.
No, I think the actual objection, as Mr. Lavis pointed out, is it actually references the 6 feet indicator that they believe the peninsula is below 6 feet, which is obviously within the 4 meter criteria, and we believe that they feel that it's 6 meters, not 6 feet. So I think the issue is that they probably recognise that there are some areas that are slightly above 4 meters, but as you indicate, there's not really been any substance to removing this. I believe Mr. Lavis has been in contact with the agent, and he may want to talk to that point. He might have more information about the actual issues. But from the Department of Planning's point of view, this zoning is a protection area. It's kind of like a red flag. It doesn't tell you that you can't develop. It's just really to indicate that the development has to be carefully constructed, and that we need to consult with the Department of Environment and Natural Resources with regard to particular issues of protecting the water resources, most particularly sewage disposal. That's one of the key things.
Any questions? With regards to the cave protection, I'm not asking you to make a case for them, but why would anyone want to remove cave protection?
Again, I think it's seen as a potential impediment to development, but from our point of view, it's not. It's just we need to be more sensitive in terms of the development and the way things are designed and sited.
They seem to want, in terms of the cave protection, they want what was there in 2008. Mm-hmm. Do we have anything that shows us the difference?
I haven't got it on here.
Maybe you can just talk about the difference.
Yeah, it doesn't actually include the peninsula. It's a lot sort of more of the on the main site.
Okay.
Yes, and apologies. I can provide that to the tribunal. It's on. It's not on a map player, I believe. I don't think it's on the online map. No, it's on a map on our website, but I can provide that. But it won't show the peninsular area.
Because one of the things they do talk about was that, you know, surrounding seabed was used to fill the area. Like, I mean, is that correct that the peninsula is kind of almost man-made, i.e. it wouldn't have caves? I just was curious if we know.
Mr. Lavis can talk more particular to the geological formations, but we believe there are no caves there, and that's why it has been included in the protection area.
Okay.
Yep, happy to. Could you, sorry, Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. Yes, the Morgan's Point Peninsula was originally two small islands that were linked together with fill, and I believe also the westernmost island was connected back to the mainland with fill also, but the fill. The geology there is mapped to be the Walsingham Formation, which is the formation where we commonly see caves around the island. And there were also known caves extending from on land and across. They're marked on the island. So there may be fill there, but beneath the fill, which is not going to be very thick, there will still be Walsingham rock. So I'd say there's a risk there that any excavations there for when they start to construct whatever the final buildings are ultimately going to want to be in the rock beneath the fill. So there's a risk there that they're disturbing a geological formation that we know are commonly associated with caves.
Okay, thank you.
Nothing else to really add to that one.
No.
Mr. Marshall, just for the record, can you go through the other issues that were raised and resolved, please? Just touch on them.
I'm really sorry, but I don't have them in hand, but I can, off the top of my head, go through them. One of the main ones was to do with the boundaries that was referred to in the previous presentation. We did change the zoning of the special study area boundary to reflect what we understand to be the correct property boundaries. So that was one issue. One issue is the removal of the listed building designations on the site. They've been demolished, those buildings, so obviously those designations are no longer valid, so they were removed.
There was coastal reserve zoning removed.
Yes, so the coastal reserve zoning was applied to, in fact, was applied to, no, I don't think I have it. It was applied to the whole peninsula. If you remember on the water protection one, it applies to the government's portion. Actually, sorry, it's on my previous presentation, but it did apply to the whole of the peninsula area we had a 30-foot buffer, coastal reserve buffer, and that was extended from the government property all around the Caroline Bay Limited property. We agreed to remove that because it's part of the special study area, which basically doesn't really have any zonings at all. It's a sort of mixed-use zoning, so we accepted that we shouldn't really have a zoning that is actually encompassed in a special study area, which doesn't effectively have specific zoning. So that was agreed to be removed. There was an area of agricultural conservation area, which you may remember was negotiated as a Section 34 area to do with the new access route to the Caroline Bay. That particular area was amended in the finalised Section 34 agreement area. So that's just an amended area. I believe it's larger in the final version. I think those are those 5 issues.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hey.
We got 104, right?
104.
Yeah.
Ms. Marshall's going to be presenting that as well, and there's no counter objections.
Okay. We're now doing FWD 0104-19, and it's rezoned from park to tourism and commercial, and it is 16 Tula Valley Lane. The objector is standing on their presentation, and Ms. Marshall is for the Department of Planning. Ms. Marshall.
Thank you. Okay, so this objection is to do with the site that's located on Tulo Lane in Pembroke. It's south of Tulo Valley Park, and it's a coastal lot that borders Mills Creek. The site is mainly vacant with dense vegetation, and it comprises just over half an acre in size. This map here was the objection submission and shows you the exact boundaries of the site, which are a little bit hard to see actually from on the site. So in terms of the zonings, the site is located. To the north is Tulo Valley Park here, and Mills Creek here, just to keep to the bearings, and then there's an area of mangroves, which I'll talk a little bit about in a future slide, but it's basically a TPO'd area of mangroves here, and the site we're talking about is roughly here within the red circle. So the site is zoned main park, which is the pink zoning, and it has a little bit of residential 1, and a little bit of open space reserve and coastal reserve. And most of the site, as you can see, is covered with the water resources protection area, which is this blue hatched area. As part of the public consultation process for this draft plan, a rezoning request was submitted for this site to be rezoned from park to residential. The department did not support this rezoning request because government records indicate that the site is located within the Mills Creek Amenity Park, which is basically this whole pink area here, and that it's designated as a national park under the National Parks Act 1986. So the site remained zoned as park in the draft Bermuda Plan 2018. The Department of Parks has confirmed that this site is part of the Mills Creek Amenity Park, and that the case of land ownership is currently under litigation in the Supreme Court. So these are the records.
Therefore, if the ownership is under litigation, I don't think we should be discussing this application at all, because neither the government or the alleged owner have any rights until the court to resolve it. So therefore, we should not be considering any application with respect to this. If it comes out that government owns it, then the objector doesn't have a say. It comes out that the government owns it, meaning that the objector owns it, then government's position has to be reconsidered. So I don't think we should be discussing it right now. Once it's resolved, it should stay as is, and once the ownership is resolved, then the appropriate owner would make whatever submissions they want to make if they would like it rezoned.
And I tried to get an update on what the status is of the case, but I haven't heard back yet. So.
You won't get to the courts yet.
No.
Okay. And the last case for the morning is FWD 0119-19.
Malik Richards is going to be presenting that one.
Yeah.
And Peter Drew is going to be coming in to represent Department of
When I was going through yeah. Plan and one that and then plans for what they did. Yeah, nobody put it in there that is in litigation.
I don't, anyway, we'll discuss it after.
This was it's all controversy laid over the controversy. Yeah, controversy.
Keeps us on our toes.
Yeah. I've never been down there. I've been to but I've never been that popular.
This is like about as far east as you can get. So get out there.
Then you go down on Friday afternoon, or Friday evening and go hanging out down there.
The
P drive?
We don't actually need Tommy. There's no agricultural issues for this one, I don't think, right? Yeah. So you can leave, Tommy.
I don't have access to the Q drive from this laptop. Do you have it on a USB drive somewhere? Can we get moved to the P drive? There's a folder called Tribunal Presentation. Or do you have it attached on Energize? I'll get it from. Thank you.
And you're bringing it up now?
I need to just download it. What's the number again?
119.
Oh, you did.
They're literally purple.
Next week we would have to make sure if you attend. You attend next week. Yeah. Okay, are we ready? This is now case number FWD 0119-19 and is to rezone from coastal reserve to residential 1, lot C at Cotwood, St. George's. The objector is standing on their presentation, and for the department we have
Malik Richards.
and along with him is
Peter Drew, Department of Environment, Natural Resources.
okay, Mr. Richards, can you, floor is yours.
Sure. Good afternoon. As the chairman mentioned, this objection relates to the lot C on Cut Road in St. George's. And there, the objector is looking to rezone portion of the most of the coastal reserve to residential one. Here's the site. This is Cut Road here, and the site is accessed by a right-of-way that extends from Cut Road, shown by this red circle. It's about 0.15 acres in size. It's a vacant lot that contains some native and non-native plant species. The topography of the site is quite steep, sloping south towards St. George's Harbor, and the elevation ranges from about under 1 meter to 10 meters above sea level. The lot is entirely zoned coastal reserve, and it is also partially within the water resource protection area, indicated by the dotted blue line. Here are some photos of the site. You can see quite steep, and this photo from the ocean. This is about the site in this area here. The objector is looking to rezone roughly 88% of the lot to residential one, with the remaining 11.5% in this bottom corner to be retained as coastal reserve. Bit of history: this lot has consistently been zoned as conservation land. In the 1992 plan, it was zoned as an open space reserve with a woodland reserve overlay on top. In the 2008 plan, this zoning was changed to coastal reserve, and it was also added into the water resource protection area. An identical objection was submitted to the 2008 review of the Bermuda plan. That was not supported by the department nor the tribunal, and the zoning stands as it is today. It has again been zoned as coastal reserve in the draft 2018 plan. There have been attempts to develop on the lot, once in 2000 and again this year. Both were refused by the Development Applications Board because of the restrictions of the coastal reserve zoning. The department does not support the rezoning of the coastal reserve to residential one, as the site meets the objectives of the coastal reserve as outlined in the draft 2018 Bermuda plan, which are to protect and conserve the ecological, natural, historic, and scenic features and qualities of Bermuda's coastal areas, inshore waters, and islands. The second objective is to protect the coastal areas and islands from coastal erosion by minimizing development within these areas and maintaining their open natural state. As it stands, this site fully meets both of these objectives, but it does not meet the objectives of Chapter 11, coastal development, which are to protect the natural and scenic qualities of the coastline and minimize the physical and visual impact of development on the coastline and adjacent inshore waters. And the third objective of Chapter 11 is to protect the coastline from coastal erosion through appropriate coastal development and shoreline protection measures. So, in summary, the land has historically been zoned as a conservation-based zone. An identical objection was launched in the 2008 plan, which was not supported, and nothing has changed on the site to warrant a zoning change, and the site continues to meet the objectives of the coastal reserve zoning. And the department does not support the zoning change, and recommends that the coastal reserve be retained in its entirety.
Any questions?
I have a couple. There is government property to the front of that?
Yes, that is correct.
And do you know how wide or how deep it is?
The government, I think it ranges from about 30 to 50 feet between the foreshore and the actual objective's lot. The objective did state the distance in their either the rebuttal or the original submission. Can't quite remember.
and you're saying this is entirely coastal reserve, how, you may not have the answer, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. If I were the owner of this property, how would I feel with a non-approval, but yet there are other properties that meet, which appear to be similar in location, in terms of water line, steepness, that have already been approved by planning. As an example, the water on Harrington Sound Road, there is a house or houses built on the water's edge by the old post office.
Right.
You know, if someone looks at that, and if I were to own this, and how can you explain to me the rationale why you're telling me no, and that's a yes?
I'm not 100% sure on the zonings of those properties on Harrington Sound, but because of the fact that this is and has been a coastal reserve and undeveloped, it is unwise to now all of a sudden come and build on the land that is historically being coastal reserve. Those lands on Harrington Sound may not have been zoned coastal reserve, and as such, they had development, greater development capacity. But again, I'm not sure what the zonings are for those other properties. But as you can see, all of these houses along this portion have residential one as well as coastal reserve, and the development is within the residential one zoning.
Right, I think the issue is that for this particular lot, there is no res one, so
Yeah.
they're effectively saying we can't do anything.
Yeah.
I think is
Yeah,
probably their
that's-
argument.
Well, the policy does allow under the coastal reserve, just for clarification,
For
some
certain
forms of development, yes, but
But
not a
obviously
detached house.
it's been refused twice.
Yeah.
I don't know what they applied for previously, but something has been refused twice.
They were both applications were for detached houses.
Stu, you want to add? Would you have anything to add? Okay, that's it. Samara?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It's, from what we can see, it's been in that zone for numerous years.
Mm.
And it ends up being that topography as well. It makes it difficult to do anything. Yeah, I have no other questions that need to be addressed at this moment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that's it for the hearing part of the tribunal, and we will now go into deliberation.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Tribunal.
Thank you.
See you next time.
I can do that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
yeah.
Just so they could compare.
Appreciate it.
Are we starting from the beginning?
No, I think we should do Vanessa.
Sorry,
Oh,
hang
sure,
on,
and then she
pause,
goes out.
pause for a second, I'm still live. Sorry.